Hello gainers, Ralphie here with some foot of philosophy, sharing the philosophy that I'm aware of to help you become more aware of yours. And my topic of discussion, presentation today is being aware of ourselves as individuals. It's not simply about knowing our strengths and knowing our weaknesses, but it's avoiding the labels and identities that others around us, and importantly society, tends to impose upon us for the purposes of social control. And I'll start with how we can identify our strengths. Let's start at the beginning. We identify our strengths by spending a little bit of time with ourselves, thinking it over carefully, asking the opinions of people whose opinions we value, and finally be honest with ourselves. When we can, importantly, be honest with ourselves and not be under any self-delusions, and naturally we will ask those around us that we trust if there's any way that we are self-deluded, just to get their perspective. But then we sit down at a table with a pencil and paper and literally list our strengths. We can list our prominent strengths followed by our weaker strengths so we can prioritise. Then we'll deal with our weaknesses. And weaknesses can be fairly superficial, but worth noting, whether we're bad at spelling, for example, or we're not particularly careful with the things that we own. Do we look after them or not? But more importantly, do we have any addictive habits which undermine our quality of life? For example, smoking cigarettes, drinking too much alcohol, or even worse, taking drugs. And by the way, when I say taking drugs, I'm not just talking about cocaine and heroin and these things which are extremely damaging. I'm talking about all the drugs out there, including pharmaceutical prescriptions, because they are drugs. Don't be under any illusion about that. So when we identify our weaknesses, we can prioritise them as well. There's some serious weaknesses which we all may have to address. In other words, being bad with money or being prone to gambling. These weaknesses can be devastating to lives. People who get addicted or have an addictive nature, that should certainly be perceived as a weakness, and there should be incremental steps to address the weaknesses. This is how we can get more out of life in a very simple, practical way, is getting to know who we are. And it's an exercise that never stops, because as we go through life, we do change slightly, all of us, through the experience of living. And in doing so, we have to recalibrate, and in doing so, we identify the fresher versions of ourselves, and we're able to get more out of life for the simple reason we can put more into it, knowing what our strengths are, playing to our strengths, identifying our weaknesses, addressing our weaknesses. Sure, we're not going to be 100% successful. Nobody is. But I tell you what, swinging things and odds in your favour by 5 to 10% even over the course of a year, you would be surprised at what a difference that can make. And therefore, this is a very practical and useful, systemic way of getting to know ourselves better. The more we know about ourselves, the more we can engage honestly with life and the world around us, and benefit from that experience and grow in life and be more, much more than we were the year before. I'm Ralphie, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to leave you with a very, very attractive view, because the world around us has got so much to teach us. All we have to do, gainers, is look, and be patient when we're looking.